it's pretty incredible. I mean, we've seen a lot of rallies and marches and everything in Fairbanks. I haven't seen as much here, but the guys are from Fairbanks, so it's nice to see it picking up here because the fight's really not over. They're out, but there's a lot of injustice here that still needs to be addressed for them and for a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so tell us, how is Kevin doing?
He's good. He's taking a lot of pleasure in little things like pillows, comfy beds, you know, so it's amazing. He's just so happy to be out and be able to be outside when he wants to. We had dinner with him the other night and we saw the Northern Lights. Hadn't seen those in a very long time, so that was pretty cool. Steak, loved that. It's the little things that the rest of us take for granted, I think.
Yeah, he's very happy to be out. He's got a great attitude. They all the guys appreciate the support so much.
I know, and even you guys were telling me there's a lot of things that we probably wouldn't think about that now they're going to have to adjust to. I mean, 18 years is such a big time frame. They went in as boys and now they come out as men, but there's probably so many things that we wouldn't think about that they've missed that they have to adjust to and transitioning back. Tell us about that.
Cell phones. Never used a cell phone.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Online banking. GPS.
A lot. They've missed a lot, and there's a whole lot to catch up on. But yeah, it's good.
They're ready. Again, they've got a lot of support. The Tanana Chiefs and Doyon they've been behind them all the way, and they're going to continue to help them with training and jobs. So that's a big thing.
And they couldn't be here today. I mean, the groups are a little much yet for them. The celebration at the Tribal Hall was phenomenal. It was packed. Even people that have lived their whole lives say they have never seen the Tribal Hall that packed. So they're not quite ready to do interviews yet. Kevin says he wants to, he will, but he just needs a little bit of time to adjust. But he is thankful for everybody, every song, every drum beat.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people for the last 18 years, rallying that never gave up hope. I mean, I'm sure you were among them.
Yeah. It's good to see it finally happen. It's about time. So we have a lot of catching up to do.
Well, tell me about that moment when you first saw him.
It was pretty amazing. I mean, we saw them. They weren't yet free, but we saw them at the airport. We figured something was up, and my sister, quite the little detective, she was stalking Vine Link about every 5 minutes for 48 hours, and we figured out they'd moved to Anchorage, so we knew something was up. So we booked the 6 o'clock flight to Fairbanks, and we were hoping we made the right call. We weren't sure, it's like, what if something happens? What if they release them in Anchorage and we're in Fairbanks? And, but we had to do something. We just felt like we couldn't just sit still. So we booked the 6 o'clock flight to Fairbanks, and we're on our way to the gate, and we see them sitting there in yellows and shackles, and it's like, yeah, we made the right call. The state was trying to keep this quiet because they know how bad they look. We caught Aaron Ring in multiple lies. The Fairbanks Police Department is corrupt. More people know that than they ever have before, and they wanted to keep this under the radar. It wasn't posted on the dockets. You couldn't look it up on court view. You didn't know what the heck was going on. So, of course,
all the attorneys were under a gag order. The Fairbanks Four were under a gag order.
Marvin's mom didn't even know, and Marvin's been out.
Right.
He didn't even, he stuck with it. They put them all on a gag order, and we woke Hazel up. We were standing in the courthouse, and of course, so we got right on our phones, and Kevin knew everybody was going to know because he saw us taking pictures of him, and he's like, oh boy, it's not a secret now. I'm like, no way, man. Because the community is what got them this far. The community is what got them out. And they had every right to be there when they were set free. So we just kind of got on the horn and started telling everybody that something's moving, something's going on.
And it's a great network.
So we woke Hazel up and said, hey, get down here. She said, I was asleep. I didn't know. It's like, yeah, we know. She said, he didn't even tell me. I'm like, he couldn't tell you, Hazel. I'm sure he wanted to. So it was pretty amazing. So we saw him at the airport, and we knew something was happening. And we saw him right outside the Tribal Hall, and that was just incredible. And George's daughter darn near, I think, knocked him over on the stage. That was pretty amazing. She just ran up on the stage, and you could hear her footsteps that just clunk, and just you could hear the slap of body to body, and just hung on to him and almost knocked him over. I think he saw her coming and braced himself, or he probably would have been on the floor. That was pretty amazing.
Well, I know you said you've seen Kevin quite a bit the last 2 years, but behind bars you hadn't been able to really have really much physical contact.
I could hug him at the beginning of the visit, and I could hug him at the end, and now I can hug him whenever I want. So that's pretty cool. I can visit with him, and we don't have to be across from each other with the prison table in the middle of us. So yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing.
Very, very cool. Well, kind of going back, I guess, to the fundraiser today. What kind of things, that people might not be thinking about that they'll maybe be needing donations or that they're needing now? I know people talked about identification. They'll need new identification.
They got temporary IDs. The lawyers made sure that they were able to get temporary IDs. So they, the Innocence Project in Dorsey Whitney they're phenomenal. I mean, we wouldn't be here without them. And they made sure the guys had temporary IDs, and they have some clothes, but I mean, anything that they can get help with, they could certainly use. I mean, none of them. Marvin has a car. He's the only one with a car.
Yeah, I think most of the boys, I think they've got a lot of clothes. All their friends and their relatives have bought clothes and toiletries and that sort of thing. I think at this point, really monetary donations would help because they've got a long road ahead of them.
And a lot of them are staying with family and friends right now, and a lot of them just don't really, I mean, I don't know, I shouldn't speak for them, but I'm not sure if they know yet where they're going to land. It's all so new, and it's also probably overwhelming.
Yeah, it's just been a few days. It's pretty crazy for them. There's, people pulling at them from different directions. Everybody wants time with them, and they're just kind of, a little overwhelmed right at first. But they're doing well, and they're happy.
They're all keeping in touch with each other. People say, are they still friends after all this? And like I mentioned, they weren't all friends before this happened. They didn't run in the same circles. Kevin and Eugene were friends, but they weren't really friends with George and Marv. You know who everybody is in Fairbanks. It's a very small community, but they're going to be brothers now for the rest of their lives. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. What about, have you heard from Kevin? Does he have any ideas of where he might want to go, what he might want to do next in life?
I think he's kind of taking it one day at a time right now. He's just kind of, I think, trying to absorb his freedom. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's good. A lot of changes.
Yeah, a lot of people to see and reconnect with and just, kind of take a look around and take stock. It's, they say if there's been a death in the family or something, you shouldn't make any big decisions for a year. Just imagine 18 years of hell.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot for all of them. But they're doing good. They're happy. I think they're optimistic. And they're just happy to finally be free.
Sure.
And as well as the monetary support, things like this, the continued support that, hey, we haven't forgotten. And also ongoing, they're not the only ones that have been wrongly imprisoned. I'm sure there are many, many more.
Yeah. How many people have taken plea bargains just because they're so afraid of the system?
And they have reason to be.
They do.
They have every reason to be. I mean, these boys were convicted, and that's one thing Bachman kept saying. They were convicted 3 times by separate juries, and they were. Yet there was no evidence, and they had alibis, and they were still convicted. So knowing that, it's pretty scary. I think for a lot of people, you walk in there in cuffs and you're considered guilty right off the bat. It's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until proven innocent. That's the way our system currently worked. It's messed up. It's broken, and it needs to be fixed.
So tell us about that too, as far as the state taking responsibility or offering any kind of monetary donation.
They have not taken any kind of responsibility. In fact, the boys had to sign an agreement that they wouldn't sue, their families won't sue, their grandchildren won't sue. The state does not want to take any responsibility. Well, just like the last hearing, they were just trying to keep it quiet and, you know, slip it through without the public seeing what was going on. But I think there is still a lot of public outrage about the deal that the state forced onto them. I mean, they just want it out. You know, they can make their own way somehow.
And that's kind of what they're doing now. How they haven't received any support from the state. It's all been community that's helping them in this transition so far.
Right. Nothing from the state.
18 years.
Yeah. So hopefully in the future, other people will be able to get compensation for what they've been through. You know, something needs to happen.
As family members, I can imagine how hard that must be too, feeling like their hands are tied and there was wrongdoing and there hasn't been justice for that. What is that like for you guys?
It's frustrating, and then you hear things like, I haven't taken it from the source, but I read an article that said that Chief Aragon said that they were freed because of the public outrage, basically. So thank everybody, again, I thank everybody, and on behalf of the Four, for every drum beat, every song, every sign, everything. Because if it was up to the state, they'd still be in there, and they don't care that they didn't do it. I read somewhere that Aragon said, it doesn't matter if they're guilty or innocent. Of course it matters that they're innocent. And the Fairbanks Police Department knows that they are innocent. And the prosecutor's office knows that they are innocent. They just don't want to own up to the things that they have done. And it's time that needs to happen.
And all of the deaths of prisoners that the state is hiding and trying to keep quiet again. I really hope that the news people will shine a light on that.
Well, you were actually telling us about one incident recently with the three here in Anchorage. Tell us a little bit about, you were telling me the story about how they were told that they were going to have to sleep outside.
Yeah, they were moved from Goose Creek to the Anchorage jail, and the jail was overcrowded. So there were 12 inmates at that point that didn't have beds. There weren't enough beds for them. So it was our 3 guys and then 9 others. And the guards just gave them blankets and told them to go sleep out in the yard. You know, it's walled, but a grated ceiling, so it's just like outdoor air. And the churches open up warming centers for the homeless at 40 degrees. And the jail guards are telling the inmates, just go out, you know, take your blanket and go sleep outside.
Goodness. Have you heard anything else from Kevin about what it was like being in prison during those 18 years?
Well, we've talked a lot. It's not often that anybody sits across from one other person for 2 straight hours and has nothing to do but talk to them. So we've talked about some details, food. You know, we've talked about the beds, the everything that he's very much appreciative of now. Not only he can eat what he wants to eat, but he can eat when he wants to eat. He has a comfortable bed. He has an actual pillow. He can go outside when he wants to. He can see the northern lights. He can be with his family for more than 2 hours at a time. So yeah, it's been hard. And he said there are a lot of people that said they shouldn't take this deal. You know, they shouldn't sign off their compensation. And he said, I know it's going to be hard. I know it's not going to be easy. And even if my record's wiped clean, there's always that question, well, where have you been for the last 18 years? What's your work history for the last 18 years? But what he said to me was, nothing's going to be harder than the last 18 years. Let me out and I'll find my own way. That's what he's doing.
I couldn't help, I noticed your necklace. It says Free Kevin. Tell me about that. You wear that with you all the time?
I made it, and I've been wearing it for, probably the last couple of years.
Yep. And I've got a little FF4 for Free the Fairbanks Four, and along with a lot of my other girlfriends, are wearing these, have been wearing them. So now we're going to say it's freed the Fairbanks Four. Still a reminder.
Very cool. This is a mantra that you've been wearing with you for years.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's good. And now it's time to help somebody else.
Yeah, there are so many people who need help, and they're not all fortunate enough to have their cases taken by the Innocence Project, because there are so many people wrongly accused and wrongly imprisoned, and very few resources.
And that's another thing people can do. Amazon Smile, I try to tell everybody about that too. It doesn't cost them anything. Amazon Smile, a tiny bit of the percentage can go to any charity, whether it's, a women's shelter or the Innocence Project or, anything that they like. It doesn't cost them a dime. And it's just one more way, just any little bit helps. And the Innocence Project is, running on a shoestring budget. And they do such important work. That's just incredibly important.
Yeah, I know Kevin and the other three always maintain their innocence. We hear sometimes stories of people being sort of pressured into giving a false confession.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kevin ever felt that way, but it's probably a big help that they always maintained it, right? That they were.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that's pretty rare in a case where there's four guys. If you roll on the other guys, you can get a good deal, and they didn't do that. They never did that. They were never gonna to say someone else did this crime when they know that they didn't, and they know they weren't there. It's like they've said that. I'm not gonna say so-and-so is guilty because they're not, and I'm not gonna say that they are so that I can get a better deal, so that I can get out earlier. And it's almost unheard of that a group like this sticks together.
Yeah, at the very beginning, the state offered Marvin a deal. I think he could have been out in something like 5 years if he would have testified against Kevin. But he said, I wasn't there, we weren't there together, we didn't do it. And he had, at that point, I think he had faith in the system. That things were going to work out the way they should work out. But we all know they didn't.
They could have also all been out, I think, a year ago if they would have taken the Alfred plea and not contested the guilty verdict, and all of them said, no way, I'm not doing it. So they held out for this. They wanted their record clean. It's a big deal.
Yeah. I don't know, have you guys had any contact with John Hartman's family at all? Have you heard anything from them?
We sat next to Sean, Chris Kelly, he goes by Sean, in the courtroom for a number of days. And he and Kevin used to be friends before this happened. So I think that was a little hard for Kevin that maybe Sean really believed that he did this. And I don't really know where Sean stands now. I don't know if he still believes that to this day. I'm not sure. But it's a horrible thing. He lost his brother. Yeah. And it's hard, I'm sure, traumatic for him to have to relive this. I know Kevin said that when they were going through the hearing for 5 weeks, he said it's kind of like reliving the whole thing. It's like we're on trial all over again. And I think it was like dredging up all of the past for Sean as well.
Right.
All of the details of his brother's murder. And what a horrific thing to have to go through.
And for Sean to come into the courtroom during the hearing, almost everybody there was in support of the Fairbanks Four. He was pretty isolated, and it's hard for him. I just can't imagine how hard it was for him.
And of course, now the question of who did it?
Gee, Jason Wallace, you think?
Holmes, the others that he named in court, I think we know who did it. I just don't know that the Fairbanks Police Department is going to do anything about it.
Oh, I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Just thank you. Thanks to the public. Because the Fairbanks Police Department and the prosecutor's office were not going to do the right thing on their own.
community stepping in to
Absolutely.
something like this happen.
Yeah, they would have just, well, as they did, they just kept kicking the appeals back, and then they say, well, that's all you've got. So
This was our last hope. This was our last hope.
This was the last time to appeal.
This wasn't even an appeal, it was a post-conviction relief hearing. They had used up their appeals.
yeah, this was it. We're so glad to see them out.